Hello and welcome to Beyond Graves and Stars. My name's Andy. This is a horror and sci-fi podcast. In this episode, Adam Whybray will be returning. He's a film scholar who does many things, one of which is he co-hosts the Still Scared podcast, which is about children's horror. Now, over the past few months, he's been coming on to talk about the Phantasm franchise. We have talked about part 1, 2 and 3 in separate episodes. We're about to talk about part 4. If you haven't already, go back and listen to parts 1 to 3 and watch the movies. It helps you watch the movies. There are spoilers, but I know some people do just want to listen to the podcast. They enjoy it that way. So far, I really recommend this franchise. I had only seen the first one until we started doing this, and I've got to say, I've been looking forward to doing this episode, as has Adam. So, no further ado, let's go to the conversation about Phantasm IV, Oblivion.
Phantasm. The delusion of a disordered mind. A phantom. A spirit. A terrifying motion picture experience. For 20 years, the secret of the spheres has remained a mystery. Now, two innocent people are about to confront the ultimate evil. The final game. I'll begin. Sci-fi horror with balls. Phantasm IV. Coming soon.
Phantasm Part 4, Oblivion. Adam, welcome back.
Hoi hoi.
The fourth one, we're getting there.
We're getting there.
And
4 down, one last one to go.
And, as we said in the last episode, it's not been that much of a bumpy ride. I've enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it too. I think it stays true to itself, basically. And they're really ambitious films.
Yeah.
They don't always pull off what maybe they're trying to pull off. But I think they're a lovable bunch of films. Like, you can tell that they're made with real passion and that there is a vision there. Sometimes it gets a bit confused and incoherent, but yeah, they're fascinating to watch.
Yeah. This one was made 4 years after part 3, and I believe I did mention it in the last podcast, in an interview. The director, Don Coscarelli, says that he'd done this one just for money. And I think that was a joke. I think he said that's a joke, especially now after watching it. There has been a lot of thought being put into it. Yes, it's a lower budget. It's gone from a $3 million budget to $650,000.
That's a big drop.
That's a big drop. And then it took them that time to raise the funds. And most of the cast are back. Shall I just go through the synopsis? I'll quickly.
Yeah.
I'll summarise the letterbox synopsis. Taken off immediately after the last one ended. In this episode, Mike travels across dimensions and time, fleeing the Tall Man. At the same time, he tries to find the origins of his enemy and what really happened that night that his brother died. Meanwhile, Reggie battles the spheres and the undead in a quest to find Mike before the Tall Man can complete his transformation.
I think that basically captures it. In Phantasm 3, Mike had one of the balls implanted into his head. Yeah. And so we don't know for quite a bit of this film. It's always unclear whether Mike is being puppeteered and controlled by the Tall Man or not. There are times where it seems like, Mike's doing what he wants to do, and times where it seems like Mike is being controlled by the Tall Man according to some kind of higher agenda that he doesn't quite understand.
Yeah. I took a lot of it as the Tall Man wants Mike to take over from him.
Oh, yeah. I think this is basically like, I don't know if it's a test of Mike or just meant to be a kind of like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
Right, that he's putting Mike through this rite of passage, and I think you're right. I think he wants him to become the next Toolman, that he's going to become the next sort of, I don't know if we call him an embodiment of death, but the figure that, I guess, transitions the living to the dead, the sort of super-powered Undertaker. And I think, he wants Mike to
one of I mentioned, well, there are not flashbacks, but it goes back in time to the Toolman as this Jeremiah character.
Yeah, in the Civil War period. So there had been that image in the first Phantasm film, I think, of the Undertaker, of the Toolman as an Undertaker, clearly at least 100 years, if not several hundred years before. And back in the first film, I think that was probably just to indicate that the Toolman had been around forever, basically, or that he wasn't just, a new Undertaker, that this guy had been, is immortal. Whereas I think they've kind of retrofitted this to say, okay, he actually was some kind of human being, an Undertaker in the Civil War period, who then starts these kind of pseudo-scientific investigations into the passage between life and death, and investigating what exactly death is. Yeah. And he seems to discover, there's a little bit of fuzzy pseudoscientific info dumping, basically. But he seems to discover that the difference between the living and the dead is a matter of vibrations, basically. Which I guess sort of makes sense, our brains are electric, right? And we have brain waves, and so there's this sort of strange idea that by controlling the vibrations, you maybe control whether someone's alive or dead or something like that. We have less focus on the kind of strange gunk that previously we see him pumping into the bodies of the dead to bring them back as zombies. It seems to be more focused on the balls and vibrations, basically, as the things he uses to kind of turn the dead into the undead, I suppose. But anyway, he's doing these investigations, and at some point manages to break open the rift between our dimension and this other alien dimension. Possibly the dimension of the dead, possibly on another planet. It's a bit unclear. And it seems like Mike hopes to be able to go back to that origin point, to go back to the point where, I think he was called Jeremiah.
Jeremiah, yes.
The Undertaker first broke the dimensions apart, the point in which he discovered the rift or opened the rift, and stop him from doing that, basically. So it's almost this idea that he can go back in time, and it's like that's the original sin, that's where it all started. He's discovered he can't kill the Toolman. The Toolman's kind of immortal, but if he stops Jeremiah becoming the Toolman in the first place, then maybe he can save his brother from having died.
Yeah. So, as I say, not just a thrown together movie for money, I'd say. With the Jeremiah character as well, what I liked about it is we saw a different range to, is it Angus Scrimm who plays him, and nice performance.
Yeah, it's funny because we've just seen him kind of growling boy and pursuing Mike, and then suddenly you have this sort of much more much gentler, kind of warmer performance of this guy who's just this sort of clearly intelligent and thoughtful Undertaker, who is investigating the difference between life and death, seemingly from a place of good faith, that actually, he wants to do something about it. Maybe he wants to stop death, maybe it's just scientific curiosity, but it doesn't seem like he started with evil intentions, exactly.
Yeah, because I've not seen Scrimm in anything else, I don't think, but I've read and heard in interviews about how a really good actor, but after the role in Phantasm, he really got typecast. And he enjoyed doing the Toolman. Yeah. But in between, he was often offered roles that were the same sort of thing, like just to play Undertakers or play that menacing figure. And I think maybe that this was written in so he got a bit more to do.
Yeah, it is nice to see him play softer, actually, and to have this more human side to the character. I kind of wish there was more of that, actually, because it's quite intriguing. Yeah. obviously, in terms of budget limitations, they probably couldn't, I think they probably got some Civil War reenactors or whatever.
Yeah.
But, we don't see loads and loads of Civil War stuff. But what we do see is done well enough, I think. Like, they obviously, have used a house of that's still of the period.
Yeah.
And then, they dress it up with some old-timey various animal skulls.
Yeah. Well, for a movie from 1998, what was made just straight to video, I think the film looked really good. I mean, in a previous episode, when I'm looking at, I think it was 2002, the straight to video Transfers Part 6, I think it was. The last one, which was really, really cheap. And I know you can't help the budget, you use the money you can get. And I think they done really well to make this film look as good as it did. Some of the effects, I think the practical effects look good. There was one bit where I noticed CGI, but even then it didn't do that bad.
It's fairly well incorporated. I mean, there's no cringy CGI, and frankly, a late 90s horror film, there were a lot of bigger budget horror films from this period that have much cringier CGI and use it unwisely. Whereas I do think maybe that's one of the reasons I have a certain amount of respect for these films, is there's very little that's properly cringy.
Yeah.
There's very little where you're like, oh, that's bad. Yeah. There aren't that many, clearly it's going, this is possibly the most David Lynchian one they've done, in as much as there's a lot of jumping through time and space. Some of it is kind of associative and a bit loose with its plotting, and there are kind of moments where it's just sort of eerie locations, and it doesn't feel genuinely dreamlike in the way that a Lynch film at its best does.
No.
But I don't know, it does have a certain something. There is a kind of sadness or melancholy in having all this sort of footage, especially of Mike and the actor playing Mike looking really young. And as you said, it's funny because you can tell he's so much older, but there's something quite childlike in his performance.
Yeah, and it might be just because we know him as that young actor.
Yeah.
But when I see his face on screen, he does, because he's got that youth about him. He looks young, and I think that also it helps.
Very blue eyes as well.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And it helps that he didn't do anything or much else apart from these films.
Yeah.
You do associate him with that character, and you see him as that kid. And also in this movie, which I don't think we've mentioned yet, there's a lot of use of deleted scenes from the other ones to get the time up, and because of budget, and because you see him back and forth with certain actors that have aged like it's 20 years, whereas in this, yes, he's 20 years older, but you can tell it's him.
Oh yeah.
Look at some child actors 20 years later; they've gained a lot of
They're
weight, they've lost their hair,
yeah.
and he does. Well, it could just be luck, but he does well to look like a healthy.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there is something kind of effective and melancholy about the jumping back and forward. And actually, some of the footage you get that wasn't used in the first film is really good, and it's quite surprising they didn't use it. There's a whole sequence where Jody, Mike's brother, manages to, on the hoof, just hang, or kind of lynch, I guess, the tall man. Yeah. So he kind of manages to sort of throw a rope around his neck and then get him up in a tree, and then he's just sort of hanging there, and he calls to Mike at night to come and let him down, and Mike comes down and is talking to him up in the tree, and he kind of says, look, I'll go away, and it's like almost this like death making a promise, like, if you help me now, I'm never going to come back, I won't take anyone else away. And Mike does cut him down, and then this kind of gets mirrored or repeated with Mike himself trying to kill himself so he can follow the tall man and go into the realm of the dead, and tries to hangs himself, and so makes a noose, and you get this sort of match cut, or it might even be a superimposition, like this sort of fade between the tree and the tall man hanging, and then Mike now hanging in the tree in the future. And there's a lot of, as you said, it seems like the tall man wants Mike to replace him, and there's a lot of sort of odd doublings and mirroring of imagery with the tall man, and then Mike now dressed kind of like the tall man, looking like he's becoming him.
Yeah.
And that was all really interesting. I don't know, like this sort of idea that Mike, because he's been unable to move on, like he's so hung up on his brother's death, that almost there's something pathological about this, and he might end up kind of becoming kind of deathly and morbid himself, just because he's so unable to live. He's so obsessed with trying to undo this.
I think a lot of it might be in my head, because you've got the dwarfs looking like the Jawas. I've got Darth Vader and Luke.
No, I also thought of Darth Vader and Luke, and I don't know if it's intentional, and that it might just be, and also the kind of desert location. That some of it's clearly filmed, I guess, out west. I don't really.
Yeah. Some of the sceneries look like the classic Star Trek when he's fighting the lizard. That sort of backdrop, and but overall, so I was very impressed with this one again. I did want to mention that in some of the things I'd read, they said that because of criticisms of part 2 and 3, they went back to more of a horror and surreal side of it. Yeah, and I totally see that. But I think as well the budget comes into that. I think if
there's less action.
Yeah, if 2 and 3 had made more money, I think we'd have got another sequel in that vein. So it would have been more like in part 3 especially, I kept saying it reminded me of a Nightmare on Elm Street sequel. And there's elements of that in this. There's a bit towards the beginning where there's a zombie type cop and a little zombie kid in the boot of a car, and that scene really had that 80s early 90s horror franchise feel to it. The makeup special effects looked very Freddy Krueger.
That bit was, it's not a scary film, but that bit was a little bit disturbing. Like, I think the idea of the zombie kid who's just become a zombie and is like struggling, clearly doesn't want to be a zombie, is confused and like crying, and ends up being killed along with the cop zombie. That was a bit disturbing. There was something a bit.
That's the first car explosion of the film.
Yes, they still like their cars and their car explosions. And
it's got obviously. This is spoiler heavy. There's a very good car flip in this movie, and literally any horror or action or sci-fi movie from the 80s or 90s, you've got to have a car flip.
Has there been a car flip in every Phantasm film?
Offhand, I'd say yes.
I think there might
probably has.
I feel like there's a car explosion in everyone.
But in this, it was brilliant. To avoid a tortoise on the road, they swerve off, and then the car flips. And Jennifer, the female love interest of Reggie, there's another one. He's met another lady to pursue. She's trapped in the car upside down. He smashes a window to get her out, and they make a comment about cars exploding in movies, and then it exploded.
Well, yeah.
I like that. And early on in the film as well, Reggie's doing a lot of one-liners. That sort of dies down. So to me, this movie starts off very in the vein of 2 and 3. And then as the film goes on, it sort of morphs more into the original. Yeah,
I think I'd agree with that, actually.
Yeah, which is nice, because you've got that. It pleases both of the fans.
Yeah, I think actually that was probably a sensible move. And you do get some little action set pieces. It is mostly sort of, one-on-one kind of little skirmishes. But you have Reggie with his taped-together shotgun.
Yes!
Still, and you get some good shots in.
Yeah. He's Reggie's the man, isn't he?
There's a nice bit where he blasts up through the car.
That was cool. And I done a little cheer when he opens. Is it the boot of his car and all his gears in there?
Yeah, you get a bit of a kitten up, tooling up.
Yeah, and
sequence.
When he kits up, so to speak, he puts his ice cream man costume on again.
Yeah, that was really interesting, right? Like, I don't know if that was like it was going back to Phantasm 1.
Yeah.
He feels he needs to put that back on. I like that he's kept it in his boot.
Yeah. I mentioned the Reggie character. We all love Reggie. He's the heart of these movies. And he's on his mission to find Mike. And while on that mission, he encounters a lady who I mentioned.
I mean, he is, I will say, he is probably the most loyal friend I've ever seen in film. He's spending, years and years of his life.
Yeah.
Just trying to look after Mike.
There's a bit where Mike says to his brother Jody as well that Reggie's always been there for him and he hasn't.
That's really interesting, actually, that Reggie should have become his family.
Yeah, but, Jody is dead. So Reggie has been there.
Yeah, it's not really Jodie's fault. He did die in a car accident, but,
But also, Jodie being dead and a ghost, so to speak, he's aged more than Mike.
That's true.
Which is really, really weird. I don't know how ghosts can gain weight.
Yeah, but it's very confusing as to whether Jodie's a ghost or whether he's been zombified as well.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot going on with what's actually happened to him. But yeah, going back to once again, he finds a lady and they end up sharing a hotel room. There's a bit of comedy in there, not as much as in the last one. I don't know why she's having a conversation with him while showering or getting changed.
I do feel it was an excuse
to throw it in
to suggest that we might see her topless,
but we didn't.
No, it remains respectful. Might be pushing it.
Yeah.
It remains less leery than other films of the period are.
Yeah. That actress was played by Heidi Mornholt, who hasn't done a lot. She's in a movie called Vice Girls, which I'm not even going to click on because I might get my algorithms to filth. Imagine That with Eddie Murphy. A horror film called Flight of the Living Dead. That sounds my sort of thing.
Yeah, that does.
But she was in Bubba Hotep.
Oh,
Don Coscarelli's later movie, nice. As well as in a film which I am going to click on called The Perfect Husband, starring Dean Cain. Which So I imagine she's an actress who knows these people. There's, all got to know them and worked with them again.
Yeah,
because it's like that family to this. You've got,
I think that always comes across.
And Michael A. Baldwin, who plays Mike, also produced this movie, and he's a lot of involvement. I mean, he didn't do much else, as I've said in other episodes, apart from the odd smaller role. He's in Vice Girls as well.
There you go. You're going to have to watch Vice Girls, apparently, Andy.
I just clicked on it. Oh, God. Oh, it's on Plex, so I will watch it. It's a free app there if you want to watch. I'll let you know. If I'm really tired next time I see you, I've just watched it. It's, let's say, you've got Don Coscarelli again, who he's done films as well as these. But I think in 20 years to do 4 films of this quality, I think that's quite good. Yeah, and
to hold on to his own franchise and clearly manage to kind of keep the vision consistent. Yeah. I think there is something admirable in that.
Yeah, just fun.
Was it recording?
Yeah, I was just checking because I didn't see it flash properly.
Okay.
Got to check. We're 20 minutes in this conversation. If it's not recorded, we're in trouble.
Okay.
So, so there's the sequences we've spoken about, sort of the actiony bits, and what I was leading on to is in the comedy romance scene where we find out, yes, she's a zombie again. He's fallen for this again. That was predictable, which that's happened in at least one of the other films.
Yeah,
and I don't know if I enjoyed the predictability of that, or it's like could they not have done something a bit different? Yeah,
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't like many aspects of the screenplay. It's hard to work out. Like, okay, is she just like some kind of evil trickster zombie? Like, I'm a zombie and I'm gonna play tricks on Reggie. Is it that the tall man, because in the first film, I think, or was it the second film, one of the early films, the tall man himself disguised himself as a beautiful lady.
Yeah.
So she does seem to have been implanted with metal balls. So is it that the tall man is using her as some kind of, zombie slave to get Reggie, which seems quite possible. Presumably she wasn't actually attracted to Reggie at all, which,
clearly not human then.
But, so that's all a little bit unclear. And also there is at the end of the last film, it did seem like Reggie was a goner. This often seems to happen at the end of Phantasm films. You think Reggie, that's it for Reggie, and then no. In as much as he was kind of pinioned up in the corner of a wall in the tall man's lair with lots of metal balls. And then we get an immediate continuation of that scene where the tall man just kind of lets him go and is like, it's not your time yet, Reggie, and sends him on his way.
This is the thing, because let's face it, the tall man should have killed Reggie in the first movie.
He should have killed Reggie a lot of times by now.
Do you think he just likes tormenting him?
I think maybe he just finds Reggie quite funny.
Yeah.
He's just amused by him.
Yeah, he killed his whole family that we forget about.
Oh, yeah, the family we never met. But he did kill, the tall man did kill them all.
Yeah, and you'd think Reggie would be more tormented by that, or at least mention it every now and then. But
now he's over it. He loves Mike. But sometimes I feel like the tall man, right? Sometimes it's like, okay, the tall man is definitely a killer. He's the one doing it. And other times I feel like, well, it's a bit like death in the Final Destination films. It's like it's fate. It's like when it's someone's time, it's someone's time, and it just happened not to be Reggie's time, and it's not for the tall man to choose when he kills someone or not. And it's like, well, looking at your hourglass, Reggie, not yet. So there you go, be on your way.
True, and it could be that Reggie's had no luck in life with career, friendships, or romance.
That's true,
but he's lucky to be alive.
He is lucky. You said that Reggie's very lucky, and maybe it balances out his life. In some ways, he has a very sad and empty life. Yeah, just sort of driving across America in pursuit of Mike, and having really awkward encounters that often feel like they're going to become sexual, and then it turns out that they're a zombie. So, I mean, I did quite like it when he tries to do a sort of exposition dump, explaining what's happened so far to the woman, and she's like, "Yeah, you sound deranged." She's like, "Says you sound demented." And at this point, he does just sound like someone who's got like paranoid schizophrenia, and is just completely into the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, and the bit I loved around that same time is when he's trying to. They're staying in this like abandoned motel, and he's just trying to amuse her by like pretending that the broken TV and that it works, and that he can bring people on the phone, and it's
like a plush hotel.
Yeah, it's like him trying to be funny, but it just makes him sound more crazy.
It did.
But that's another bit where there is definitely less comedy in this movie.
I think it's quite a melancholy film.
Yeah, but there's that little bit helps it.
There are moments.
Yeah, I quite like the balance actually, because parts 2 and 3, I can see if you're a hardcore fan of the first movie, they're a bit too silly.
A bit like if you're a massive fan of the first Evil Dead, I could see why some people don't like Army of Darkness. I do, but I could see like if you really love Evil Dead and then you're watching Army of Darkness, you'd be like, come on, what is it? This is just silly cartoon nonsense.
And same with the maybe sort of post part 2 Nightmare on Elm Street. Well, probably part 3, thinking about that. But I think these movies went from being small little horror films to appealing to the masses, and teenagers want a bit of comedy in it, and you need to lighten the load.
I mean, I think it works because it's not like Phantasm. See, for me, and I know we've talked about it on your previous podcast, I know you're a big defender of Texas Chainsaw 2.
Banger, yeah.
And I think for me, me and Antonio were less keen, and I think that was probably because the first one is such a relentless, grim, effective horror film. I think it's probably one of, if not the greatest horror films.
Agreed.
That then I just found that tonal shift too much. I was like, but it's Texas Chainsaw. I like silly films, but it's Texas Chainsaw. Whereas with Phantasm, the first one, it's creepy, but it was never, the most intense, disturbing horror film.
No.
It was always a bit odd and whimsical, and so it doesn't feel like too much of a departure. Like each of the films clearly exists within the same universe.
Yeah, it's just a slight tone shift. But I think I said it on the Chainsaw podcast, which you can listen to. It's on ACM's Vault of Cult it's on Spotify and everywhere. A few years ago now. I think I totally get what you're saying, but you can't recreate the first Texas Chainsaw.
So maybe it was just that acceptance that you can't recreate it.
And that's what Toby Hooper said, and he wanted to try something different. And maybe if he made the same film with different characters, you'd have probably enjoyed it more.
Yeah, maybe. If I could take it on its own terms more, I probably would. Yeah,
if it wasn't Leatherface, but another one character like that, you just tell me. But this isn't as. This franchise is more its own thing than other franchises, I suppose.
I think so. It feels like I like it because it feels like the kind of scrappy. I don't know. It's not. It clearly never reached the kind of height popularity that, say, the Nightmare films did. But I also feel like, I don't know, there's a kind of earnestness there, or a consistency of vision that maybe you don't get in other franchises.
No. And I generally feel, as we said before, you see images of these movies, and they are talked about a bit, but I think they're totally underrated.
Yeah, I agree.
And also, interestingly, with part 2, when it had a bigger budget, had a studio behind it, they even changed the actor of Mike. If that had been a success, I think possibly we would be talking about these movies more because the sequels would have gone off on a bigger route. But I don't think they'd have been as good.
No, you're probably right, actually. I think it is one of those cases where the limitations have made it more interesting because they've had to do things like splice in the earlier footage, but do it in inventive ways that actually works. Yeah. I mean, I could have mentioned before I've mentioned that it's a little bit David Lynchy, and while we were watching, I said there are bits that almost remind me of Twin Peaks: The Return. Now, I don't think this is like the level of kind of artistry like Lynch manages, but in terms of Twin Peaks: The Return, also, especially without wanting to do spoilers for that, but towards the end of that season is the third season of Twin Peaks, but after 25 odd years. It does use some footage from, I think, Fire Walk With Me, or possibly the original pilot episode. I think it's Fire Walk With Me, and then interpolates or incorporates Carl McLachlan now into that footage, and so it's not just a flashback; it's doing something more interesting. Yeah. And again, this film does that too. There's the last scene, like the last few minutes, where you get some footage from the original Phantasm that presumably wasn't used, and then you get sounds or the voices from Phantasm IV, like laid over the top. I thought that was really effective. I actually found that quite moving.
A lot of it was really well done, and obviously I'd read about them using a lot of unused footage, and I was worried that it wouldn't work, or there'd be too much, or they'd keep flashing back to stuff we'd already seen.
Yes.
And I will mention, if listeners have heard the last episode of that on the Transfers series, because in the 5th part, there is 8 minutes of a 75-minute movie flashing back to the one before.
Presumably it's not really doing anything with it.
No, it's just telling you what happened. Yeah. It's just to get the time up. The 2 movies were filmed at the same time. It should have been one film. But anyway, listen to it if you want. But in the 6th part, the main character isn't in it as himself. The character goes into the body of someone else.
Okay.
But you see him on a TV screen talking to someone, and they've mixed in footage from the other film to make it look like a conversation, and it's one of the worst things I've seen in even low budget franchises, because the backgrounds are different every time it comes back. And as podcast with James, we're like unsure whether it was supposed to be funny or not. But either way, it takes you out of that world, because it looks like something would happen in an airplane movie.
Oh gosh!
But it's not funny, and it's not well done. It's terrible. Whereas this, I think, is very well done for what it is. And I know there are people out there who don't seem to understand that films can't get millions of money behind them, and they hate low budget films. But people like that, I think, would still not see this as a low budget film. It's got its limitations, but it works within them so well.
That's the thing I respect. It never really looks shoddy. There are very few moments in the 4 films we've watched that I found cringy. And I think that's pretty impressive, as genre films. The practical special effects, I always think, are really decent.
Yeah.
And actually, even the use of CGI is really minimal and kind of tastefully done. Compared to a lot of other films in the 90s where the CGI, much bigger budget films, where the CGI looks really cringy and awful now.
And CGI definitely dates more than practical effects. And I think in this, there's less of the action sequences and effect sequences, but they've still utilised the budget to make the ones in there look good.
Yeah.
And that probably does help that they've used old footage, because the time they'd be spending on money on other scenes, they've actually put into making quality looking sequences.
Yeah. And I'm not a car head. I don't petrol head, motor head, whatever. I don't really know cars. But I know a lot of people who like these films do like the cars, and there's a fair amount of dedication to cars. There's a fixing the motor scene montage, so people can enjoy that.
That's true, and it's something that to me, growing up 80s and 90s, you had things like Knight Rider and Dukes of Hazzard and all these cool cars. I do think they look cool.
Oh yeah,
but also I don't care.
Yeah,
I mean. But that's another appeal for these movies, that it's a shame for the audience we're not that into. And there might be some petrol heads listen to this movie like, what are those 2 nerds on about?
Yeah.
Practical what? Why would I know what
model car was?
What cylinder carbonite Yeah, no idea.
But yeah, it's a cool film. I like it. I think, by the time you get to the fourth film in a series, you're not necessarily expecting wonders. And actually, I think this would probably... I'd say, okay, I would easily go to bat for this above Halloween 4.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. I was worried you were going to say 3 then for a second.
No, Halloween 3 is amazing.
Yeah.
But Halloween 4, it's not... There are things I like about it, the idea of like a new Mike Myers, the girl. But realistically, I found quite a bit of it boring.
Yeah.
There's bits of it that are dull, and I don't think the Phantasm films... I think they're very rarely dull. I think they're really nicely paced, and they always stay interesting.
This one does repeat a lot of the sort of things that happen in the previous films, but it doesn't get boring. I didn't look at my watch once, and I wasn't waiting for it to end. And also, it to more or less the second it lasts 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's so well done when you think about how the budget was.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool. Good use of I assume it's the original score again.
Yeah, the score's great. Obviously.
And there's a song in it. I believe it's on the end credits scores. You have seen it, composed and performed by Reggie Bannister. So he done the music.
That's cute.
All of it was filmed in 23 days, which is longer than some movies have.
Yeah, true.
So there's scenes of the empty streets were sort of guerrilla filmed in busy cities, a busy city. And that looked really cool. 28 days later, eat your heart out. It does exactly what it's supposed to. It's so enjoyable, and then as mentioned, the one-liners and that sort of thing. I do going back to. I love that it. If you could watch this straight after part 3, and it would seamlessly shift.
Well, that's kind of true of all of them, really.
I suppose you could just watch them all as a marathon. I mean, they're all about 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I am interested in part 5. I haven't done much research on
I know part 5, maybe I've lowered my expectations because I know it wasn't the same director.
Yeah.
I think Reggie's getting quite elderly by the time we get to 5.
Yeah,
because
that's a while after this as well,
Yeah.
a few years. There was a planned part 5 with Bruce Campbell involved, which, and looking at Reggie, I'd have loved to have seen a crossover. Or even them as in a buddy movie, Reggie's character with Ash, like the older guy who thinks he knows it all, talking to a younger Ash who also thinks he knows it all.
That would be quite funny.
And they are similar in
you could always write some fanfic.
Yeah, and they could do a comic on it. They do comics on everything nowadays. I'm currently reading Army of Darkness meets Red Sonja.
Oh yeah.
Which I think there's different rights for the comics, so it's Army of Darkness is that. And my favourite one, which is there's a new Toxic Avenger movie coming out.
Oh yeah, Julia Davis, isn't it? I love Julia Davis.
Oh, cool. It looks good. It's getting an actual cinema release worldwide, and thanks to the people who made Terrifier have got that released. But there's a comic book, Toxie Meets, and the first issue is the Toxic Avengers meets Jesus Christ.
Oh,
I've got it. I haven't read it yet. I'll let you all know. It's worth buying for the cover. But they team up, so it's not fighting. I think.
Okay, that's nice.
So it's not.
That's good.
It's not that.
You got to think. What would
blasphemy.
Jesus do?
What would you? He'd be buddies with Toxie, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
All right, a bit Toxie. That's a franchise I'm thinking of doing. But I might just compare the original with the remake when it comes out. So that'd be cool. So yeah, scores for this. It's 29% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, it deserves more.
It deserves more. 5.5 on IMDb, which is and 2.8 on Letterboxd. So it's an average reviews. It's not.
I mean, I'd probably be about the same. Although I don't know. It's so hard to like I say. I don't think this is a masterpiece, but I have no regrets on watching it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's the weakest one so far. But I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my take on it, really. But if I hadn't seen any of the others, I think I'd like this. I definitely want to see the others.
I don't think you'd be quite hard to understand any of it if you hadn't seen the others. Though. You'd be like, what is this?
Yeah, but I used to watch loads of films like that as a kid. You'd stick a horror film and you wouldn't really care about the plot. You'd like the sequences.
Yeah.
And you'd definitely like Reggie.
That's true.
I think that... Yeah, it would make more sense, but also if you hadn't the others to compare it to, you'd probably enjoy it.
Yeah, maybe.
Not saying that. Yeah, if I watched this, say, before part 2 or 3, I might prefer it to that.
Yeah.
But we've watched them in order.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do it yet, but when we do the 5th one, I'm going to ask you to rank them, because I've got to think about it myself as well, because it's difficult.
That is actually quite difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part 5, I've just had a quick sneaky look. It was made quite a while after this. I think it was made in 2006, so 8 years after. And all the cast are back. I didn't realise.
Really?
By the looks of it. But it might be, you get this sometimes, it might be like cameos or even flashbacks.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I say all the cast, all the main ones. One problem with the franchise, that I mean, to a modern audience, there's no continuous female characters.
No, that's true. That's true. Well, they are quite male, actually. They're very focused on male friendship. I mean, the series absolutely could have worked with,
Because there was the character, was it in part 3, who everyone liked, the sort of hero.
Yeah, it was a shame. I don't know. She wasn't killed off, was she? She just didn't come back.
Just didn't come back. Yeah, she had a bit of a Grace Jones feel about her.
Yeah, she was cool.
Yeah. But, it's all budget with these movies, unfortunately. Just obviously, this will be for the next episode. Just looking at the director of Part 5, it's done by David Hartman, who, as well as doing Phantasm, done a Transformers animated movie, a movie called My Friends Tigger and Pooh, Friendly Tales.
Okay,
sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And Tigger and Pooh, and a musical too, which could go into the childhood ruined episodes I'm doing on the Winnie the Pooh
maybe so. Well, I'm hoping that there'll be a few Winnie the Pooh call outs then in Phantasm 5.
Actually, just looking at it, Phantasm 5, the character we mentioned.
Yeah.
Name's on the credits. I didn't know that. That sounds like I've let it in, but I really haven't.
Well, let's see.
But it might be a cameo, mightn't it, or a flashback?
Well,
you never know with these things.
With a little bit of trepidation, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it, but I'm looking forward to it when I want to see how they take, because the ending to this movie, Part 4, could have wrapped it all up.
It could have done.
It's not a definite wrap up. And also, we will, as it spoilers, did you take it that Mike died at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a little bit of movement in the eye there as it zooms into his eye, but that's the flickering before he died.
Yeah, I think he's dead.
Oh, what way to go? Well, I say it didn't happen to Luke in Star Wars, but it did eventually, didn't it?
Yeah.
So everybody dies.
Yeah, there we go. Well, I think that's sort of the message of the Phantasm films, really. Yeah. Everybody dies. Get over it.
Yeah. Go
and have an ice cream.
Yeah, ice creams. Yeah. I did notice as well on the ice cream van in this one that there's a bit of product placement for a drinks company. So I'm not going to say which one it is, but it's certainly misunderstood.
Okay.
So Adam, I think that's about it.
I think so.
I've enjoyed it. The only sort of drawback is, as the movies go on, I think there's a little bit less to talk about.
Oh no, I think so, especially when you're reusing some footage and stuff. But but still, it's still a solid watch. I found it engaging and intriguing, sometimes bemusing, but I'm
always entertaining.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say one thing I always forget to do on the episodes is to let people know where they can actually watch the movie.
Oh, good point.
So,
I mean, we're watching on DVD, right? Or
Blu-ray. Blu-ray. It's been commercially available for quite a while, but if you want to rent it, it's on Google Play Movies, YouTube, and Amazon Video, as well as being able to buy. And I've got an Arrow Blu-ray box set. I think now you can actually buy them all individually through Arrow as well. Nice. Certainly the first one you can, but having a quick look, if you are a fan of the physical format like I am, you can buy through Amazon like second-hand copies for about £4 with postage. So and it's a 15 certificate, this one. So if you are between 15 and 17, you can still watch it.
Nice.
Legally. So yeah, thank you, Adam, very much. We'll get the last episode with everyone.
Yeah.
Fairly soon.
Awesome.
Yeah. And should we mention what we're going to tackle after us two?
Okay. Well, I'll mention as well that my podcast, Still Scared, we're going to record another episode hopefully this week. The last episode was on Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I was going to show you I bought the Blu-ray after your...
Which definitely did scare me as a kid.
Yeah.
And also, TerrorVision, same name as the band. The band took the name from the film, which I'd say wasn't as much of a children's horror as the children's horror list maybe implied, has a lot of comedy business with swingers in it. But apart from that, it does feel like a children's horror. It's kind of like someone had a children's horror screenplay and then put in a lot of sex jokes.
Yeah.
So if that sounds like your kind of thing, then I would recommend TerrorVision.
Yeah, well, listening to that podcast, you slated the film quite a bit, but all the way through, I'm like, I need to see this.
I think it's quite a you film, Andy.
Yeah, and it's also a good link with this episode because TerrorVision, and this is Phantasm IV called Oblivion, which was one of their singles from the How to Make Friends and Influence.
That's beautiful linking.
That is indeed. Right, so we're going to say farewell. Oh no, we're going to mention.
So we should hopefully be doing the Tomy films next, which, if you're not a Japanese listener, you might not be aware of, because very popular and successful in Japan.
Yeah.
A lot of sequels, but not so well known over here. But the creator Junji Ito is increasingly well known for his manga.
Yeah.
So if you go into Waterstones now, loads of Junji Ito manga, and Tomy was one of his first horror manga. And there have been films adapted from the Tomy stories for years now, and a lot of them. Yeah. So
we're going to start with the first one.
Yeah.
And see where that goes. You're going to have to help me with the pronunciation of some of the names in that.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, we'll both struggle, but hopefully it'll be good, and we'll want to watch more.
Yeah. As well as that, I'm going to be continuing the Childhood Ruin season with Sam Williamson. The next one will be on the Mickey Mouse horror movies. Oh my gosh,
that looked horrendous.
That's the ones they're the episodes where I'm getting the most sort of God, they're rubbish, Andy. But we shall see. Me and Benji are going to tackle, maybe not an episode on each, but we are going to be looking at the Universal Soldier sequels. I was very impressed rewatching the first one. I'm trying to pick up the other ones.
Yeah.
And I've got so far parts 2 and 4. So we're going to be looking at them once I've got part 3. And I'm not sure if I've announced it on a podcast yet. I've put it on the websites. Me and James Rowe are going to be tackling the live-action Starship Troopers franchise.
Oh, wow.
The first one, I think you'll agree with me, is a bit of a banger.
Yeah.
Never seen any of the sequels.
I've not either, only the first.
And they look very low budget, so very appropriate for this. There'll be loads more coming up. I have said to you before, I'm going to get all the people who've joined me on episodes before, and we're going to look at both the Critters franchises and the Nightmare on Elm Street franchises. Work our way through all of those. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. You can listen on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music. Thank you very much for joining me, Adam. Do you want to end us on a boy?
Boy!
I'm Jem.
And I'm Victoria.
And we are childhood best friends with a true crime podcast called
The Criminal Crack. During each episode, one of us presents a true crime case to the other.
And the listener has no idea what the case will be.
So every reaction, question and twisted theory you hear is genuine and off the cuff.
So join us fortnightly on the platform of your choice.
And find us on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok by searching @The Criminal Crack.
Bye-bye.
Keep on trucking.